Thank you for listening today on Revealing Wholeness, sponsored by Infinity Whole Health. Check out our website at infinityWholeHealth.com, where we are revealing the eternal in each individual, the infinite in the individual. The creativity is made manifest. Limitation is let go. Now, here's your host, Dr. Troy Munson.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Troy Munson on Revealing Wholeness. And, sun's coming. Here we are, wondering what should I avoid if I'm going to be in the sun? Now, some medications can make you more photosensitive, meaning your exposure to the sun can make it worse or magnified, and you can burn much faster. So that photosensitivity or phototoxicity is the reaction that's occurring, and so there's things to avoid. Now, with all the craziness that's happened in 2010 or 2020 and 2021, we have antibiotics. Antibiotics can make you photosynthesis or phototoxic. And so being in the sun can really, really affect how much or how well you burn, so to speak. So be very, very cautious when using antibiotics and being out in the sun. Even though we know that, extra vitamin D can be very, very helpful when it comes to fighting infection. So you might say, if I burn at 20 minutes, then I'm only going to be out in the sun like 2 or 3 or 4 minutes. I'm going to really cut down that time frame if I'm on antibiotics and I'm not feeling well. And what's interesting is I used to burn off my colds by playing out in the sun. I'd be playing volleyball or basketball or whatever I was doing out in the sun, snowboarding, wakeboarding, all of that I would do, just in the sun. And I feel much better after I kind of burn it all off. But again, to each his own. Now, acne treatments. So things that typically go after acne is going to be high vitamin A, and it's usually synthetic vitamin A's. And I've had podcasts on some of the vitamin A treatments that they use. And so I don't appreciate that. I'd rather you did a natural vitamin A because that will not induce a phototoxic effect on the skin and make sunburns much, much worse. So if you're on an acne treatment, you're definitely one that I'm going to say very limited sun, always wear long sleeve, things of that nature. So be cautious there of those. Allergy medications, think like allergy medications, what are you talking about? Well, antihistamines can reduce your ability to sweat, and now you actually get too hot being out in the sun and don't know it. You can't cool down. And so it can be dangerous in other ways, not from necessarily sunburn, but from heat exhaustion, heat stroke, things like that, even leading to muscle cramps. So be cautious using allergy medication in the sun and overheating in those situations. Next is antidepressants. Now this is an interesting one because antidepressants, it's crazy because literally the antidepressants go into your brain and your brain does not know that you are overheating. It literally limits the ability of the brain to sense itself and the body and know what's going on. But anything that is depressive to a nervous system tendency is probably not a wise idea all the way around. So be cautious on antidepressants. And, of course, I've had heat exhaustion. It wasn't fun. It was instantly nauseous. I couldn't cool down, and it happened lickety-split. I was very close to my college at the time, and so I just rode my bike to college. I remember being like beginning of May, and it just happened to be a really warm, really humid day. And by the time I got home, I was like sick. I'm like, what happened to me? And later I realized that it was heat exhaustion, and so it can happen very, very quickly. Lightheadedness, feeling very weak. And I can look back now and say, you know what? I can totally tell it was a calcium issue. Because when we don't have enough calcium, we'll not be able to hydrate well and exchange heat, everything. Calcium does so much in the human body to even hydrate. And we've talked about this at length in the podcast, so it's kind of funny. If you have enough calcium, you're making vitamin D in the skin, you're able to pull the vitamin D away from the skin, you resist burning, you actually hydrate the skin better and all the other tissues with enough calcium. It's interesting that all these things kind of tend to run together, and we'll see them. So again, but antidepressants, kind of an interesting thing there. Next is, a shocker to me, is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. The NSAIDs, the pain relievers, the anti-inflammatories. Those are phototoxic, or they can cause some phototoxicity. And so that phototoxicity means, hey, we better be cautious when we're using pain relievers. And that also goes for topical pain relievers. They'll do the same thing. And I think that is without saying any topical medication that you use, you will find that it will likely be photosensitive or make you photosensitive of the sun. So you need to be cautious. But anybody who's going to a dermatologist, I'm sure they're going to get the lecture on, hey, be careful in the sun with this. And I'm just reiterating that you'll want to do that. Spend very short durations in the sun and make sure you don't burn. Now, here's a kicker. So the last one I want to talk about is some herbs. I've got folks that are on herbs in my office and some vitamins. And there's some vitamins and herbs that could make us photosensitive. And one of those is saint-johns-warts. So again, if we're looking at an antidepressant as a problem, then we probably ought to look at saint-johns-wort as possibly being a problem. So if you're doing some herbs, it might be nice to know what you're taking, and maybe there should be some caution in sun use. Still, is it okay to get sun in all these situations? Of course, we just want to make sure that you're doing it very wisely. And then last would be something like a niacin. So niacin can be used more and more these days for people that are taking it for cholesterol, of course. And so if you're doing that and you're taking niacin, there's some literature that says it could make you photosensitive. So in that case, just be cautious with that particular B vitamin. If you're taking a multivitamin that may have niacin in it, or if you're taking a B complex that may actually have some niacin in it, something to be aware of. So please look at your stuff, be aware of what you're doing, and again, everything with a little bit of caution goes a long way. And until next time, I hope that did you right. And I'm Dr. Troy Munson at Revealing Wholeness.
Thanks for listening. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach Dr. Munson at 360-893-8586 or email him at chiroman@dr.com. That's chiroman@dr.com. Check out our current workshop schedule on Facebook at Infinity Whole Health.
The information on this podcast from Dr. Troy Munson is meant to educate the listener on a variety of health issues. It is not meant to diagnose or treat any conditions.